Hello, everyone. My name is Gal Hochman. I'm a professor at Rutgers University, a CFIR board member, and the president of NAREA, and I will moderate today's event. We are pleased to have you join us today for a timely and important topic, e-commerce during COVID-19, opportunities for food producers to make direct market sales online. We will be joined today by three panelists. Jeff O'Hara, who will discuss what USDA Agricultural Marketing Service resources are available for producers to develop e-commerce sales, the latest data and research, along with examples of ways farmers have migrated online. He is an AMS specialist. Chyi Lyi, also known as Kathleen Liang, who will discuss various online platforms, the merits of using digital sales strategies, and sample innovative aggregated venues online. She is W.K. Kellogg Distinguished Professor of Sustainable Agriculture and the Director of the Center for Environmental Farming Systems at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. Last but not least, Gary Matteson, who will talk about the need for business planning with clear goals for inputs such as time and money, and clear expectations for sales and profitability when approaching new markets. He is Vice President for Young Beginning Small Farmers Programs and Outreach at the Farm Credit Council. Before we start, I just wanted to point out that today's webinar is hosted by the Council on Food, Agriculture, and Resource Economics, also known as CFIR, along with the Northeastern Agriculture and Resource Economics, known as NAREA. CFIR is online at cfir.org. CFIR is a nonprofit organization, and the scope of CFIR's activities encompasses a broad range of subjects that the agriculture and applied economics profession covers. You can reach CFIR through Facebook and Twitter, or email them at information@cfir.org. NAREA is a thriving community of scholars dedicated to promoting the public good through applied economic research. You can reach NAREA through Twitter at NAREA_economics, or visit NAREA's website at narea.org. Please put questions to one or all of the speakers by typing it into the box in a control display and sending it to the organizer. The organizer will present the questions to the panelists, where questions which we won't be able to answer live will be answered later with the reply posted on the CFIR website, where this whole presentation will be recorded and also posted. Now I'll hand it over to Jeff, who will start us off.
Thanks, Gal. My name is Jeff O'Hara. I'm an economist at USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service. I just want to preface my remarks by indicating that the views I represent here are not the official USDA views. I'm simply on here to share resources and share information. I'm going to provide some examples of online platforms and online marketing, but that doesn't really mean it's a USDA endorsement of any particular platform or way of doing business. Really on here to share information and share options and give people information so that they can make their best choices. Next slide, please. The USDA Agricultural Marketing Service does a few things to support local producers. Next bullet, please. Perhaps what we're known the most for is our grants program. We have a farmers market promotion program, local food promotion program, and regional food system partnerships. RFA is currently out. The deadline has been extended until May 26th, so there's still about a month left. We certainly would welcome, the opportunity for people to send in grants that are addressing COVID. And I would just mention that online sales are an activity that's explicitly mentioned in the FMPP RFA. So there's a form of technical assistance that we offer practitioners for developing online marketplaces. And so that really is addressing prospective grantees. I also want to mention for active grantees, the AMS is working with, allowing active grantees that need to either adapt their grant with regard to COVID, whether it's the activities or timeline or, what they might use their budget for. Those kinds of things can be considered on a case-by-case basis when practitioners contact our grants management specialists. So we certainly encourage current grantees to contact our grants management specialists and let us know what's going on and let us know if changes in your award need to be made. And just for housekeeping here, a couple other things I want to mention about what USDA is doing. not necessarily the transportation and marketing program, but the broader program, a broader assistance that USDA is offering with regard to COVID. We saw an announcement of USDA last Friday. There will be $16 billion in direct payments to farmers and ranchers to help them deal with declining prices or missed market opportunities. We also have a $3 billion commodity procurement program whereby USDA is going to purchase food from distributors for on behalf of food banks and other nonprofits and faith-based organizations. With regard to local markets, that would be an opportunity for food hubs and smaller local distributors to apply towards. So we don't have as much information out on those programs yet as we'd like, but that information we'll be communicating that information when we have it. The division I'm within does research and technical assistance for local food practitioners. We maintain local food directories. We have a couple of architects on staff that help with blueprints and planning. And then my role and some others' role here is really focused on socioeconomic research and convening, and that's something that I've been involved with for the last few years. Next slide, please. One of the things, you can go to the next slide. One of the things that we've been working on, in particular, and it's a partnership between AMS and National Agricultural Statistics Service, is a new survey called the Local Food Marketing Practices Survey. And so this gives us new information on direct-to-consumer marketing by producers that we didn't previously have. So direct-to-consumer sales here by farmers would be sales that occur at on-farm stores and farmers markets, CSAs, and roadside stands. And really the new kid on the block are online platforms. And so we can see that that's about a $3 billion a year sector. And what the Local Food Marketing Practices Survey did was give us insight into the use of online marketplaces that really no USDA survey had ever really had before. And this is something that Sarah Lowe is now an economist at Missouri. She was previously with USDA. Sarah and myself really wanted to dig into this and to understand online businesses in a much deeper level. And so really it was as of about 5 years ago, it was still fairly new. Only 6% of direct-to-consumer sales were through online platforms and 8% of farms had them. 72% of those sales were to customers, I'm using local here in parentheses, but that would be customers within either 400 miles or the same state. So, next slide, please. So really the profile of what we found for farms that use online marketplaces, it was fairly different than farms that did not have them. So farms that had them had about 4 times the level of sales on average, $80,000 in direct-to-consumer sales, relative to farms that didn't have them. And then farms that had them, online marketplaces were about a quarter of their total sales. So it was a big component of sales for farms that had online marketplaces, and then another half of their sales were occurring at on-farm stands. So, farms with online marketplaces, tended to have less sales at farmers market CSAs and roadside stands, although, now in the COVID era, sales at farmers markets are going to be requiring online platforms. So that distinction may not be as appropriate now as in the way it was 5 years ago. Next slide, please. So it's another key difference is that the products that we see being sold or being produced by farms that are online tends to vary. 78% of their sales were coming from value-added products that they were produced on farm. In terms of how this translates into commodities, we can see that farms with online marketplaces are much less likely to produce vegetables and beef relative to other direct-to-consumer farms, but much more likely to produce poultry and lamb. With fruit, we didn't really see a significant difference. Next slide, please. So another thing that we found was that newer direct-to-consumer farms are more likely to have online platforms than older farms. So by newer, I mean ones that began in 2009 or later. We found they were 3% more likely to have an online marketplace. And next bullet. And we also found that where that growth was really occurring were in distant rural farms. And this is one of the things we were interested in because of the, such an interest in expanding broadband to rural area and really getting a better understanding of how rural businesses are using the internet to quote unquote flatten the marketplace, to use like a Thomas Friedman expression. And so we found that newer distant rural farms were more likely to have online marketplaces, while newer farms in metropolitan or metropolitan adjacent areas were less likely to do so, perhaps because farmers markets and other venues like that were fairly mature. Next slide, please. So, alternatives and complements to online platforms. Just before I get into that, I do want to do a hat tip to the National Young Farmers Coalition. They recently came out with a guide on how farmers can undertake direct sales, and really a discussion of software and the logistics associated with doing that. Sort of beyond my ability to speak to those kinds of details, but I would encourage everyone to go to the National Young Farmers Coalition website and look at that report if you're interested in more details about how the operational logistics of setting up online platforms go. They just released it a week or two ago. And so things that vendors can think about are, we've seen a number of farmers market organizations promoting the web, either on their web pages and through social media, promoting vendors' online platforms. That's certainly a way to help increase the visibility of an online marketplace. We've seen app developers. I'm going to give an example of that here in a moment. And then there's other ways in which there's other networks that can be accessed for people with online businesses to connect to purchasers that I'll talk about here in a second too. The next slide. One of the examples I wanted to mention here in Virginia, I'm from Virginia, is WhatGood. And this is an app developer. It exists throughout the Northeast. And essentially what this app does is it allows customers to go online and to order food directly from farms. And then WhatGood has a distribution facility, and they pick up the food from the farms, work with the order, and then they deliver the food directly to the customer's home or workplace. And so it saves the farms a couple steps, in terms of promotion and delivery. And WhatGood handles that role. And I put on here perhaps the most famous or iconic direct marketing farm out there, which is Polyface Farms here in Virginia. It has recently collaborated within WhatGood within the past year. Next slide, please. Another local example here is Loudoun County Economic Development Authority. So Loudoun County is a Washington, D.C. suburb, and that within the last week or two, they have created an online platform that is essentially one-stop shopping for all Loudoun County. They have farms, and they also have wineries on there. And so they've partnered with Local Lime as a software platform for farmers to go on there and advertise their products. I looked this morning, it looks like they have about 25 or 30 farm and wine businesses already on the platform. And the advantage of working with Local Line is that Local Line can connect with the Market Maker Network. I think Gary and Kathleen may talk more about the Market Maker Network, but essentially what Market Maker is a venue that allows businesses that are selling products, it allows people that want to buy products directly from producers to find businesses through their network. And Local Line and Market Maker already have a pilot in Illinois with the Illinois Farm Bureau that's being piloted that I think this platform is trying to build off. So last slide, I really want to encourage people to continue to look at our website, localfoodeconomics.com. We're going to be putting more resources up there in the future, and that will include information about COVID-related resources, information about how to access USDA support programs, and also we plan on putting up some case studies dealing with how businesses are adapting to COVID, which will for sure involve the use of online technology. So thanks very much for participating with us, and encourage you to reach out and contact me to let me know more about what's going on. I think AMS is here to serve the public, and we need to know what's happening in order for us to do our jobs effectively. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. This is Kathleen Liang from North Carolina A&T, and thank you all for participating on this webinar. I'm going to do a similar disclaimer like Jeff's statement is the information I'm presenting here to you are from very aggregated, summarized level, and a lot of the data information are based on ongoing research. It's not NCANT's intention or our perspectives to promote or to particularly present specific examples. This is just for showing as a information exchange scenario for people to think about purely for example purpose. Thank you. Go next slide, please. What I'm going to share with you is to follow up with Jeff's information to talk about the types of online platforms and architecture designs. And then we're going to talk about some pros and cons for people to think about whether you are buying or selling online, particularly for agriculture and the farm related activities. Finally, we're going to share a sample innovative aggregated venue for people to think about the possibilities and opportunities that you all can create in your own communities. Next slide. There are three aspects when we talk about online activities. Well, the first group is most of us know is a private. A lot of them are consulting or marketing services, businesses type of activities. They usually charge a fee for both the buyers and the sellers because these are company professionals helping people to move inventories, to get the connections, to build the communication channels. They have to charge a fee to cover their administrative works, technical support, to maintain the computer software, and then the security level. Some of them can tailor to create specific platform to to meet with your niche situation. And I will explain the platform and architecture later. The second type of services come from public organizations like NGOs, government agencies, or nonprofit. Most likely they're funded by grants or public funding. Some of them charge a setup fee one time usually, but most of them don't charge for users. And most of them display information like maps showing the locations of producers, showing different varieties by seasons, and individual farmers, associations, or coalitions, they all can be listed on the information sheet for people to find out. And then finally, there's a third type of online information exchange that's a hybrid. That's between a public funded institute or organization with proprietary features. And most likely, these organizations or these type of services will charge one-time setup fee, and then some of them charge membership or so-called a maintenance cost for them to provide a service to maintain the database, to update the list, to help individual farmers or groups to update their scenarios. And then sometimes they don't charge farmers or sellers to post their information. So there are different varieties of activities here. Now, before I move on to the next slide, I'm going to define the terms because I'm going to use the following terms throughout my presentation. I want to make sure people understand what I mean. You all know the individual farmers, so that's just a person. And then individual farmers can have their own website, and that's fine. And then they can use their website link to these platforms. And there are farmers markets, there are food hubs, there are co-ops, there are community supported agriculture, also named as a CSA. So these are the coalition aspects that I mean, that when you have a group of individuals working together with or without an official or a legal memorandum of understanding, that sort of thing. And then lastly is the bigger domain, like a regional food hub or regional food association, something like that. Now here you see the differences. I try to make it as simple as possible for anybody without a computer technical background. You understand the platform versus an architecture. The online platform is just like a host that individual farmers can put their information, their farm address, their contact information, link to their website, what's the product, including produce, meat, animals, or value added or agritourism activities, any kind of things they have, and they all contribute to a data domain. The data domain involves the data repository, so it's like a big data bank kind of thing with a lock. So it's a secure, could it be a secured cloud scenario? And it has a flow mechanism to relate each individual farmer's information to what they want to sell, who they want to sell to, how they want to be paid, how much they charge, that sort of thing. And their computer programming to maintain the flow and updating, changing, moving things for each farmer to connect with their customers. And then finally, very often the platform will spit out the backend data back to each producers or each sellers to show what's been selling better, what's not been selling. So that sort of thing help farmers to do financial analysis or planning or any perspective that Gary will talk about a little bit more. Now on the right hand side is a bigger picture, it's a composite of different platforms. The platforms can include the farmers, or the platform can have a food hub, farmer market orientation, or the platform can contribute to a CSA or other buying, selling clubs activities. And then finally, you can have a platform for institutional coalitions. With an architecture, you think about it, it's like a choo-choo train. The train is moving with different compartments, different containers, with a different type of information, with different activities. But the choo-choo train moves to a certain direction that bringing everybody together by linking the information, clustering the information to look for similarities or very different scenarios, and exchange information. Are you buying this? Do I need to buy this? That also includes the farm input like labor, land, capital, any sort of stuff could occur during the exchange stage. And then finally, the architecture will help people to move to distribute the information plus their product to the domain where people are looking for the information, looking to buy or looking to sell. Next slide, please. Well, selling online sounds like a simple task, but it's actually very complicated for farmers or for smaller domain holders. Because the good thing is we all want to know where our food comes from. That's very good. And we all want to promote and brand our own product. It has a shortened supply chain opportunities to improve efficiency and to improve real-time engagement with the customers or the buyers. It will be easier for farmers to manage their orders and inventories when the online system give them the back-end data, give them some feedback, so they have a better opportunity to plan, to prepare for the seasons to come. The online is definitely more easier for the tech savvy generations. Now, I don't know about you guys, but to me, I mean, baby boomers, I'm not sure. I switched to a smartphone just about a month ago. So it's really the way how the modern technology drives the communication and to trigger the interest from the younger generation or the older generation who at least are tech savvy. Now, the data and the analysis are probably the most valuable part. We all know information has value. So this is a key when we engage on online activities. A lot of times the data and analysis help buyers and the sellers. They definitely promote diversified market orientation, and the interface with their customers could be very exciting. Now, the downside match with the pros because, first of all, we all have to find our customers. It's not a magical bullet. If you sign up on online sales, you sit here and waiting for people to buy. Well, who knows what you're selling? You got to get the information to the customers. So farmers still need to have some basic homework to do to identify your buyers, to connect with your customers, and to keep up with promotions, social media, that kind of stuff could be really time consuming. And sustain a consistent supply could be a problem for smaller scale mixed operation farmers that really go with the flow kind of thing. So the volume may not be as promising as what the market needs. And then it's challenging to maintain a detailed record if you want to have efficient management. But the biggest challenge is the last 2 points. The first one is the broadband access. I know there is a conversation um, across different government agencies about a broadband issue because the device may not be up to date. If you give people a device, you may not have the broadband access. If you have the broadband access, you still have problems to deal with the security features. safety features, how to handle the account, transitions, those kind of stuff. That's a bigger discussion that we encourage that you engage with your community, your constituents to have this conversation, because the broadband has to be there to people to have online activities. And then managing time beyond farming, I heard this from all the farmers doing online stuff. They got so tired about doing it. Next slide, please. This is a follow-up with Jeff's example using Virginia. It's because we want to make sure our samples are consistent. So this is just one example for the Virginia Market Maker program. The Market Maker is a bigger domain as an architecture. If you look on the right-hand side, there's a partner states map showing that the deep orange color are the current Market Maker partnership states. And then Virginia joined the National Market Maker Coalition in 2015, and they're funded by Virginia Cooperative Extension, Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and the farm credits for the Virginians. So this is an example to show people what the platform could be. The individual farmers can have their own platform, sign up, join the market maker as an architecture, but a link to other part of the state, other part of the country to open up more dialogue, to learn from each other. That sort of thing. The market maker covers the farm, farmers market, restaurant, grocery, retail, caterers, food trucks, bars, agritourism, food banks, and other nonprofit coalitions. They separate their activities by types of practices, certificates, programs, and the services. So if you're interested, check it out. The website is foodmarketmaker.com. Next slide, please. To conclude my simple presentation here, it's just to raise the awareness about what selling online could be. There are tremendous opportunities if we can link the modern technology innovation to promote farming systems and to help farmers, whether it's small, medium, large size of farms, to identify new opportunities in the market domain and to support each other to have a healthy, co-competitive environment that we all become much better producers with knowledge and education. And it's also an opportunity to adapt use-inspired approaches that recently the big data, artificial intelligence, the AI stuff, the robotic stuff, there's so much more we could do to build onto this online aspect to motivate the engagement from younger generation to help improve our agriculture future. And next presenter, Gary will definitely talk about more the new business model, planning perspective to support our food systems and to alleviate the barriers and the challenges for people to understand the availability, the accessibility, the affordability, and the accountability of food safety and the health outcomes over all the communities. And then finally, as an educational institution that I represent here, we definitely want to invest more on expanding the training and the education to farmers and to our community stakeholders, policymakers, so together we can achieve sustainable goals for the future. Thank you very much, Gal.
Hi, this is Gary Matteson. I work for the Farm Credit Council, the trade association for the farm credit system in Washington, D.C. And my special work is with beginning farmers and small farmers and also with local food systems. And today I'm going to be speaking about the need for business planning when approaching new markets, such as online sales or CSA sales, which may be opening up as new possibilities for you as producers. So I'm going to give you my main point right up front. Simple business planning allows you to establish clear goals for inputs, such as time and resources, and also set clear expectations for sales and profitability. I only have a few minutes for this presentation, So I'm not going to talk about the nuts and bolts of business planning. There are lots of places online that you can find that kind of information, but rather to share some ideas with you on what you may want to think about in terms of responding to challenges because of the COVID crisis. So next slide, please. This really is an exciting time for rural entrepreneurs. That's what you are. You may think you're just a farmer or a local food producer, but you're a rural entrepreneur, a business person who's responding to the needs of the marketplaces. And there are big changes happening now in your farm operation, and you have the opportunity to help people respond to changes in their lives. You can do good in your community that nobody else can do. Next slide, please. The best advice I can give to you is to plan for success. And really, that is at the outset, in a changing environment, you need to determine what your own farm business capacity is. Basing an estimate of your capacity, what you can do, should be based on what you have as far as production, as far as the different markets you sell through, and most importantly, the time it will take for you to do different tasks like growing, harvesting, market access, market preparation, and selling. Estimating your capacity helps you understand what's reasonable for you to expect if you are making changes in how you sell or the markets that you approach. And you should be sure to define your capacity in terms of dollars. Next slide, please. Okay, I really don't expect you to read the fine print here. This is just my example of a simple one-page cash flow budget. The idea here is that you need to plan what resources you need to commit. And that also means planning what outcomes you expect. A lot of times farmers will figure, gosh, if I do this, if I buy this piece of equipment, then I can do a lot more. Well, define it in terms of costs and benefits, in terms of dollars. It's not a plan to say that you will increase online sales. Rather, you need to plan to increase online sales by 20%, and that means your costs are going to increase by 10%, and you need to know that answer in terms of dollars. What's 10% of your sales? I don't know, but define your goals in terms of dollars, and then you'll have a real goal to shoot for. You'll know if you miss or if you make or if you exceed that goal, and the idea is to be able to recognize in terms of dollars that in one market channel may be outperforming another, so you need to spend more time doing that. For example, if you're going to increase your online presence, you need to consider not only the dollar cost of accessing a particular platform like Market Maker that Kathleen was talking about, but you also need to think about how much time it will take you to sign up and use the platform. You know, free is good. Like Market Maker, free is good, but it's going to take you time to be able to get onto that platform and be able to utilize that as a marketing tool. Same with Facebook or any other marketing or online transaction tool. Next slide, please. For all of you local food producers who already have direct-to-consumer relationships, logistics is going to be the new determining factor. I've spoken to farm credit loan officers around the country. One of them told me about a large CSA, large existing CSA, who's adding 5 to 10 new customers per day. That's a lot. We know that customers more than ever want a local feel and touch. And you may think that your problem is finding new customers, but think it through. Your new problem may actually be figuring out how to deliver to all of those new customers. Next slide, please. In the end, logistics is going to be the biggest new drain on your time, not to mention the man hours necessary for additional preparation time and packaging and cleanup. And it doesn't matter if you're a large-scale CSA or a small-scale farmer. If you are changing how you deliver your product, preparation time is extensive, and it's something that we frequently forget to count as producers in how we spend all of the hours that we have in a given week. So I really encourage you to plan for more changes in the future. As the economy opens back up, what do you think is going to happen? Probably isn't going to look like this slide with a whole bunch of people crowded together at a farmer's market. Next slide, please. Your restaurant-based customers may come back. Your CSA customers may migrate back to farmers market sales. And you need to be flexible to follow your consumers and make the most of opportunities. Just don't sit back on your heels and wait for somebody to tell you what to do. If you, thinking in terms of your capacity, if you expect your restaurant customers to come back as restaurants reopen, you may consider holding off some of your production, some of what you could sell, because you recognize your capacity. You don't want to keep taking on new CSA customers with your production capacity if you think your restaurant customers are going to come back and they're going to be making those demands of you, of your product, that you're going to want to satisfy them because you don't want to lose them as customers. You want to help that local restaurant keep its local food, and you have a commitment to those long-term customers that you want to serve. Planning allows you to recognize your capacity. Next slide, please. I think it's better to think in terms of using the resources, the things you already have, to respond to new opportunities. I'd encourage you to be creative in repurposing your resources rather than thinking that you need to buy lots of new equipment to meet a particular market that may shift once the COVID crisis is over. For example, you may want to plan for shorter crop turnaround like microgreens or other quick growing crops so that you make sure that you have the ability to shift what you're selling from one market to another and be able to add more production, add more capacity of a quick growing crop so that you have something new and fresh to be able to offer, for instance, to those restaurants who may be coming back online soon. So this is an exciting time for rural entrepreneurs. I'd say keep yourself grounded by embracing the changes you need to make in your production and marketing. It should be fun to you as a small business person to change, to respond, to feel like you can embrace that vision that you and your farmer operation are helping people, helping your customers respond to the changes that are in their lives. Next slide, please. Everything's changed. The whole world has changed. And you will have to make new business plans for next year to respond to a different environment. Get good at planning now so that you can thrive in the changing environment that is going to continue to change in the future.
Thank you, everyone, for your presentation. Thank you for Hara, Kathleen, Liang, and Gary Matteson. Thank you also to Robert and Pezan for organizing this event. We thank you, the audience. We're passionate about this subject, and we think customers are adapting to these challenges times by minimizing their physical exposure to shifting towards e-commerce and bulk buying. In this webinar, we discuss ways farmers, food gatekeepers, and retailers can benefit or at least hedge losses by adapting to consumers' behavior changes. We hope you find the webinar useful. Again, to iterate, we will have this webinar available online on CIFER website. There will be links in other websites within the next week. And please do subscribe to CIFER YouTube channel. Today's webinar will also be there. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.